My name is Mia, and this is the story of how my heart was broken, my trust shattered, and how I turned that pain into a revenge so precise it felt like poetry. I'm a 32-year-old event planner in Portland, Oregon, living in a charming Victorian apartment with ivy climbing its brick walls, just blocks from the Willamette River, where the water shimmers under the city's bridges. 3 years ago, I thought my life was a masterpiece, a thriving business I'd built from scratch, a circle of loyal friends. And a fiancé, Ethan, who I believed was my soulmate. We'd met at a charity gala I'd organized, his warm smile and quick wit drawing me in like a moth to a flame. We planned a future together, wedding venues, a house with a garden, maybe a dog. But Ethan's betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined, and what I did next. Well, let's just say he learned that breaking me was the worst mistake he ever made. It was a crisp September morning in 2022, the kind of day where Portland's air smells of pine and coffee. And the leaves crunch underfoot. I was in my office, a cozy space filled with mood boards, fairy lights, and the hum of my laptop, finalizing details for a high-profile wedding at a vineyard. My phone pinged with a message from an unknown number. "Mia, you need to see this." "I'm sorry." Attached was a screenshot of Ethan's dating profile on a hookup app, his familiar grin staring back at me, captioned, "Looking for fun, no strings. Engaged, but she's too busy to notice." My heart stopped, the room tilting. I clicked the link, and there it was, Ethan, my Ethan, advertising himself like a used car, his profile active for months, with recent messages boasting about his clueless fiancée who was too wrapped up in work to suspect. I sat frozen, my coffee cooling on the desk, the chatter of my assistant outside fading to a hum. Ethan knew how hard I'd worked to build my business, Mia's Moments, from late-night sketching table settings to pitching to skeptical clients. He'd been there when I cried over lost contracts. When I danced around our apartment after landing my first corporate gig. He'd proposed 6 months ago, on a rooftop under a sky full of stars, promising forever. And now? He was mocking me, betraying me, humiliating me in a digital marketplace of deceit. The screenshot showed messages to other women, graphic and cruel, one saying, "Mia thinks I'm at the gym, but I'm meeting someone hotter tonight." My stomach churned, bile rising. This wasn't just infidelity, it was a deliberate, gleeful dismantling of my trust. I didn't cry, not yet. Instead, I felt a cold clarity, like the fog that rolls off the Willamette. I locked my office door, opened my laptop, and started digging. I created a fake profile on the app, using a stock photo and a generic bio, and matched with Ethan. My hands trembled as I typed, pretending to be Sarah, a flirty stranger. He took the bait, his messages bold and careless, detailing dates he'd been on, how he'd used my business trips to cover his tracks, even joking about pocketing money from our joint savings for his adventures. Each word was a knife, but I kept going, saving every chat, every screenshot, building a dossier of his lies. By nightfall, my cozy office felt like a war room, papers scattered, my heart pounding with a mix of grief and fury. That night, I drove to Forest Park, Portland's sprawling wilderness, and sat on a bench overlooking the city's twinkling lights. The pines whispered in the breeze, and I let myself break. Tears streamed down my face, soaking my scarf, as I mourned the man I thought I knew. Ethan, with his morning coffee rituals, his habit of leaving sticky notes with doodles on my fridge, his promises of a life together. How had I missed this? Was I really so busy, so naive? The humiliation burned, knowing strangers on an app were laughing at me, the clueless fiancé. But as the stars emerged, so did a spark of resolve. Ethan thought he could play me, but I wasn't just an event planner, I was a master of logistics, timing, and spectacle. If he wanted to make a fool of me, I'd turn the tables in a way he'd never forget. The next 3 months were a dance of deception and discipline. I kept up appearances, kissing Ethan good morning, laughing at his jokes, planning our wedding like nothing was wrong. Our apartment, with its exposed brick and vintage rugs, became a stage where I played the devoted fiancé while plotting behind the scenes. It was torture, smelling his cologne, seeing his clothes in our laundry, knowing he was texting other women while I cooked dinner. Every shared laugh felt like a betrayal of myself, every touch a reminder of his lies. I'd lie awake at night, the moonlight filtering through the curtains, replaying his app messages in my mind, each one a fresh wound. But I had a plan, and every fake smile fueled it. Ethan's betrayal wasn't just personal, it was financial. I discovered he'd siphoned $15,000 from our joint savings, claiming it was for wedding expenses, but his app messages revealed he'd spent it on lavish dates, a secret weekend in Vegas, and a flashy watch he'd hidden in his gym bag. That money was mine, earned through years of hustle, and I wasn't letting him keep it. My revenge needed to be public, undeniable, and devastating, but legal and nonviolent. Ethan thrived on his charm, his reputation as a charismatic real estate agent with a knack for closing deals. He was set to receive a Rising Star Award at the Portland Real Estate Association's annual gala in November, a black tie event at the Sentinel Hotel, where the city's elite would gather under crystal chandeliers. That gala, I decided, would be his undoing, a stage for his lies to unravel in front of everyone he'd fooled. I wanted him to feel the weight of his deceit in the spotlight he craved, to see the faces of those he'd charmed turn to disgust, to lose the one thing he valued most, his image. Step 1 was financial recovery, a practical move to protect myself. I consulted a lawyer, a sharp woman named Rachel, in a sleek downtown office with views of the river. She helped me freeze our joint account and move my funds to a new one. Citing Ethan's unauthorized withdrawals as fraud, I documented his spending with bank statements and his app messages, ensuring I could reclaim my money legally. Rachel grinned as we plotted, her confidence infectious. "He's going to hate this," she said, and I felt a flicker of satisfaction, a small victory in a war that was just beginning. With my savings secure, I turned my focus to the emotional and social strike, the part of my plan that would hit Ethan where it hurt most, his ego. Step 2 was gathering evidence, a grueling process that felt like excavating my own heart. I continued my Sarah persona on the app, coaxing more confessions from Ethan with a mix of flattery and feigned interest. He bragged about juggling multiple women, lying to clients to pad his commissions, and even mocking his boss, Greg, calling him a spineless pushover who'd never suspect his tactics. I saved every word, cross-referencing dates with my calendar to confirm when he'd lied about his whereabouts. Nights he'd claimed to be working late were spent at rooftop bars. Dates he'd said he was at the gym were actually hotel meetups. I also reached out to my network discreetly, careful not to tip my hand. My friend Lila, a tech whiz with a knack for uncovering digital footprints, helped me trace Ethan's activity, uncovering profiles on 2 other dating platforms, each one a new layer of betrayal. Another friend, Marcus, a bartender at a trendy spot in the Pearl District, confirmed seeing Ethan with different women, his arm draped around them like he owned the night. Laughing without a care. I also found physical evidence, receipts tucked in his car's glove box, a hotel booking email he'd forgotten to delete from our shared tablet, even a cheap bracelet one of his dates had left in his jacket pocket, which I found while doing laundry. Each piece was a brick in my case, a mosaic of his deceit that I'd used to build his downfall. Step 3 was sowing doubt, a slow and deliberate erosion of Ethan's credibility in the weeks leading up to the gala. His reputation was his currency, the foundation of his success, and I wanted to chip away at it until it crumbled. Using an anonymous email, I sent tips to a local real estate blog, Portland Properties, about unethical agents inflating commissions and cutting corners with clients. I didn't name Ethan directly, but I included enough details, vague but pointed, to spark chatter that would inevitably point to him. The blog ran a piece titled "Shady Deals in PDX Real Estate," and I shared it on X, Reddit, and LinkedIn, tagging the Real Estate Association to ensure it reached the right eyes. Comments piled up, with some speculating about that flashy guy from Summit Realty, Ethan's firm. I watched him check his phone nervously at dinner one night, his jaw tight as he scrolled through the posts, muttering about idiots who don't know what they're talking about. I hid my smile behind a sip of wine, knowing the ground was shifting beneath him, and he didn't even know I was the quake. To amplify the pressure, I wove a wider net of disruption, layering my strategy to ensure Ethan felt cornered from every angle. I contacted a local journalist, Emma, who wrote for a Portland lifestyle magazine known for its investigative pieces. Over coffee at a bustling cafe in the Alberta Arts District, I posed as a concerned industry insider, sharing anonymized snippets of Ethan's behavior, his inflated commissions, his shady deals with clients, without mentioning the personal betrayal that had set me on this path. Emma's eyes lit up. She smelled a story. This could be big, she said, scribbling notes on a worn pad. I nudged her toward the gala, suggesting she attend to see something unfold that might interest her readers. She promised to bring a photographer, and I knew her presence would magnify the fallout, turning Ethan's public humiliation into a headline. I didn't stop there. I created a Burner X account under the handle PDX Realty Truth, posting cryptic messages about a certain agent whose charm hides a web of lies. I tagged Summit Realty and the gala's hashtag PDX Gala 2022, knowing Ethan's coworkers followed it religiously. The posts gained traction quickly, with replies like, "Is this about EC? I've heard he's shady with clients." Ethan started coming home rattled, muttering about stupid rumors at work, his usual confidence fraying at the edges. I feigned concern, rubbing his shoulders as he ranted, all while my mind raced with the next steps of my plan. Every nervous glance he shot at his phone was a small victory, a crack in the carefully curated facade he'd built over years. To push him further off balance, I enlisted my sister, Claire, who lived in Seattle but had always been my rock. Over a late-night call, her voice steady through my tears, she agreed to help me amplify the pressure. She created a fake LinkedIn profile posing as a freelance auditor and started commenting on Summit Realty's posts, questioning their vetting process for agents and hinting at ethical lapses in their ranks. Her comments were subtle, professional, but they sparked replies from others in the industry, amplifying the scrutiny on Ethan's firm. Claire's involvement felt like a hug across state lines. She knew how deeply Ethan's betrayal had cut me, and she wanted him to pay as much as I did. "He's going to regret this, Mia," she said, her voice fierce, and I clung to her words like a lifeline. I also orchestrated a whisper campaign to spread doubt among Ethan's peers. I attended a networking mixer at a sleek rooftop bar in the Pearl District, where real estate agents and clients mingled over craft cocktails under strings of Edison bulbs. Dressed in a sharp blazer and a forced smile, I casually dropped hints about ethical concerns at Summit Realty, never naming Ethan but planting seeds of suspicion. One agent, a chatty woman named Dana with a penchant for gossip, latched onto the bait, promising to dig around and see what she could find. By the next day, her ex-posts hinted at trouble brewing at the upcoming gala, amplifying the buzz I'd started. Ethan's anxiety became palpable. He canceled a client dinner, claiming a headache. But I saw him scrolling X on the couch, his face pale as he read the speculation about Summit. I kept my expression neutral, but inside, I was thrumming with anticipation. To add another layer of pressure, I contacted a graphic designer friend, Tara, who owed me for a last-minute event save I'd pulled off for her a year ago. Over beers at a dive bar in the Buckman neighborhood, I asked her to create a series of anonymous posters, styled like vintage wanted ads, with phrases like "Beware the charming liar and trust is earned, not stolen." We kept them vague but evocative, hinting at Ethan's deceit without naming him outright. The night before the gala, Tara and her brother plastered them across downtown Portland, on lampposts, bus stops, and even near Summit Realty's office, where Ethan's colleagues couldn't miss them. By morning, X was buzzing with photos of the posters, tagged #PDX Secrets, with users guessing who the liar might be. Ethan's name came up repeatedly in the replies, and I watched him unravel. Snapping at me over breakfast about idiots online who have nothing better to do. I played dumb, sipping my coffee, my heart racing with the knowledge that he was walking into a trap he couldn't escape. I took my strategy further by reaching out to a former Summit intern, Sam, who'd left the firm after clashing with Ethan over unethical practices. Over tacos at a food cart pod in Hawthorne, Sam spilled that Ethan had bullied him into fudging client reports to inflate sales numbers, a revelation that made my blood boil even hotter. I recorded our conversation discreetly, adding it to my growing pile of evidence. Sam, still bitter about his time at Summit, agreed to attend the gala as my guest, promising to stir the pot by asking pointed questions during the queue. Using an anonymous mailing service, I sent each of them a single page of Ethan's app messages, carefully curated excerpts where he bragged about cutting corners on their deals to fund his personal escapades. The notes were unsigned, with a simple header, "Know who you're trusting." I timed the delivery so they'd arrive just days before the gala, ensuring Ethan's clients would be in the audience with fresh doubts in their minds, ready to see him exposed. One client, a developer named Paul, even posted on X about rethinking partnerships with Summit, tagging Ethan directly. I saw Ethan's face go white as he read the post, and I knew my plan was working. He was unraveling before the gala even began. The final step was the gala itself, the culmination of months of planning, where every detail had to be perfect. I'd organized events at the Sentinel Hotel before, its grand ballroom with velvet drapes, polished wood floors, and glittering chandeliers, a perfect canvas for the drama I intended to unleash. I wasn't on the planning team this time, but I knew the AV crew, including a tech named Corey who owed me a favor after I'd saved his sister's wedding from a catering disaster. I met him at a coffee shop a few days before the event, rain streaking the windows, and handed him a USB drive. "Play this during the awards," I said, passing it off as a tribute video for the recipients. Corey nodded, no questions asked, his pierced eyebrow quirking with curiosity, and I knew I could count on him to execute my vision. The video was my masterpiece, a 4-minute montage that would lay Ethan's lies bare for all to see. I spent late nights in my office editing it, the glow of my laptop screen reflecting the determination in my eyes. The video included Ethan's app messages, crude, mocking texts about me and his other women, alongside screenshots of bank transfers showing the $15,000 he'd stolen, voice recordings from our wedding planning talks where he lied about his spending, and Sam's recorded testimony about the fudged reports. My voice narrated the montage, calm but cutting. "This is the real Ethan Carter, your rising star." Every frame was a dagger, designed to pierce through the charm he'd used to fool everyone, exposing the fraud beneath. To ensure the video's impact would ripple beyond the ballroom, I emailed a copy to Greg, Ethan's boss, and the gala's organizer, Lisa, early that morning, with a subject line, "Urgent, award recipient concern." I didn't accuse Ethan outright, the evidence spoke for itself, but I knew they'd watch it before the event, planting seeds of doubt in their minds. I also sent the video to 3 of Ethan's top clients, the ones I'd already primed with anonymous notes, ensuring they'd be in the audience with their guards up, ready to see Ethan fall. My final touch was a printed booklet, a sleek program I designed myself, detailing Ethan's lies with screenshots, timestamps, and a timeline of his deceit. I paid a courier to deliver 200 copies to the hotel, labeled as event supplements, and slipped a note to the hotel's event manager, a former client of mine, suggesting they were sponsor gifts to be placed on tables during cocktail hour. I wanted every guest to have a tangible record of Ethan's betrayal in their hands, a keepsake of his downfall. But I didn't stop at the video and booklets. I wanted Ethan rattled before he even took the stage. I hired a local improv actor, a friend of Marcus's named Leo, to pose as a waiter during cocktail hour. His task was simple but effective: accidentally spill a glass of red wine on Ethan's pristine tuxedo jacket just before the awards, flustering him and throwing him off balance in front of the crowd. It was a petty move, I'll admit, but I knew Ethan's vanity would make the moment sting, and I wanted him vulnerable, his charm cracking under pressure before my real strike landed. Leo was perfect for the role, quick-witted, discreet, and eager to help after hearing my story over drinks at Marcus's bar. Emotionally, I prepared myself for the gala with the same precision I brought to my events. I started therapy, meeting a kind woman named Drive Ellis in a cozy office with sage green walls and a bookshelf stuffed with psychology texts. She helped me process the grief, the rage, the guilt I felt for not seeing Ethan's true colors sooner. "You trusted because you're human," she said during one session, her eyes warm behind her glasses. "That's not a flaw, it's a strength. Now, use it wisely." Her words grounded me, reminding me that my revenge wasn't just about Ethan, it was about reclaiming my power, my story, my sense of self. I also leaned on my friends, hosting quiet dinners at my apartment where we'd sip wine and laugh, their support a balm for my wounded heart. Marcus brought his famous guacamole, joking that Ethan didn't deserve my cooking, while Lila, ever the tech geek, offered to hack Ethan's social media for more dirt, though I declined, knowing I had enough. Claire flew in from Seattle a week before the gala, staying in my spare room, her presence a reminder that I wasn't alone. We'd sit on my balcony at dusk. The Willamette's breeze carrying the scent of jasmine, and she'd hold my hand as I poured out my fears. "You're a storm, Mia," she said one evening, her voice fierce. Let him feel the rain. I also turned to journaling as a way to process my emotions, filling a leather-bound notebook with raw, unfiltered thoughts. I wrote about the betrayal, the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, the moments I doubted myself, but also about the strength I was finding, the clarity that came with each piece of evidence, the fire that burned brighter with every step of my plan. One entry, written the night before the gala, read, "I trusted him with my heart, and he broke it. But I'm rebuilding it, stronger, fiercer. Tomorrow, he'll see what happens when you underestimate me." Journaling became my therapy outside of therapy, a way to forgive myself for trusting Ethan, to see that trust not as a weakness but as a testament to my capacity for love, a capacity I'd never let him destroy. The gala night arrived, crisp and electric, the air buzzing with anticipation. Portland's skyline glittered beyond the Sentinel's floor-to-ceiling windows, the city's lights reflecting off the river like a promise. I wore a sapphire gown that hugged my frame, its fabric catching the light like the Willamette at dusk, my confidence a quiet flame burning beneath the surface. Ethan, in a tailored tuxedo, was all smiles, completely unaware of the storm I'd brewed. He thought I was there to support him, kissing my cheek as we entered the ballroom, the scent of his cologne twisting my stomach into knots. I played along, my smile a carefully crafted mask, my heart racing as I scanned the room, chandeliers casting a warm glow. Tables adorned with my booklets, guests already whispering as they flipped through the pages, their eyebrows raising in shock. Emma, the journalist, was there, her photographer snapping candid shots, her notebook tucked under her arm. Sam lingered near the bar, his expression hard, ready to pounce during the cue. During cocktail hour, as Ethan schmoozed with a group of clients near the bar, Leo approached with a tray of drinks, tripping at just the right moment to splash a glass of red wine across Ethan's pristine white shirt and jacket. Ethan's face turned crimson, his charm cracking as he snapped at Leo, "Watch where you're going, idiot." Guests nearby turned to look, some hiding smirks, others whispering about his outburst. Ethan stormed off to the bathroom to clean up, his ego visibly bruised. And I watched from across the room, sipping a glass of champagne, my lips twitching with satisfaction. It was a small moment, but it set the tone. Ethan was already off balance, his perfect night already tarnished, and I hadn't even played my trump card yet. As the evening progressed, I mingled with guests, keeping my distance from Ethan but staying close enough to gauge his mood. I overheard snippets of conversation, people flipping through my booklets, murmuring things like, "Is this about Carter?" I knew something was off with him. And this is wild, who put this together? The buzz was exactly what I'd hoped for, a low hum of suspicion that would crescendo when my video played. I caught Emma's eye across the room, and she gave me a knowing nod, her photographer already capturing the tension in the air. Sam, meanwhile, was chatting with a group of summit agents near the bar, subtly planting questions about Ethan's ethics, ensuring the room was primed for what was to come. Ethan's award was the evening's highlight. The moment I'd been building toward for months. The MC, a jovial man in a bow tie, took the stage, his voice booming through the ballroom as he praised Ethan's charisma, drive, and unparalleled success in real estate. Ethan strode up to the podium, his grin wide, basking in the applause, his earlier wine mishap seemingly forgotten as he adjusted his tie and waved to the crowd. I stood near the back of the room, my pulse steady, my hands clasped to hide their slight tremble. I'd rehearsed this moment in my mind 1,000 times. But now that it was here, my heart pounded with a mix of nerves and exhilaration. As Ethan began his speech, thanking his team at Summit Realty and my supportive fiancée, Mia, his eyes found mine in the crowd, and he flashed me a smile that once would have melted me. Now, it only fueled my resolve. The screen behind him flickered, and the room fell silent as Corey cued my video. My voice filled the ballroom, cold and clear. "This is the real Ethan Carter, your rising star." The audience gasped as Ethan's app messages flashed across the screen, crude. Mocking texts about me, about his side pieces, about how he'd played everyone for fools. Screenshots of bank transfers followed, showing the $15,000 he'd stolen from our joint account, then his voice from our recorded conversations, lying about his spending with a laugh in his tone. Sam's testimony came next, his voice steady as he recounted Ethan's pressure to fudge reports, a final nail in the coffin of Ethan's credibility. The video ended with a still image of Ethan's dating profile. His grinning face frozen on the screen, the caption looking for fun, no strings glaring like a neon sign. The ballroom was deathly silent for a moment, then erupted in murmurs, gasps, and the clatter of phones as guests began snapping photos and recording the aftermath. Sam stood up during the cue, head swiveling between Sam and Ethan. Ethan's face drained of color, his hands gripping the podium like a lifeline, his mouth opening and closing with no sound. Greg, his boss, stormed onto the stage, his face a mask of fury, and yanked the award.